North and ScoreNorth.com.
You think you and your Hall of Fame quarterback buddy like football? Well, John Gruden and Brett Favre don't just like football, they love it.
Oh, no.
Watch this throw rolling to my left, backing up. That's awesome, man. And I'm making another throw. The next
It's like it came right out of heaven.
it had to.
Welcome back.
It had to drop
Big
in
Herb's
like
up
a
there,
butterfly
dropping it
with
down.
sore feet. It had to drop in like that.
Like a what?
You lost me.
Oh, man.
Watch this throw rolling to
I
my
don't know,
left,
man.
backing up.
My football page needs to be refreshed, boys. It's the off season though. This is the time where you work on the kinks. The football buttons are, maybe they're not as fine tuned as they will be in the middle of October.
They want their
week
time
6.
off, dude. They're telling you something right now.
This is optional season.
This
for
is
my
optional.
football
We might
button
not
bar.
work. Your football button bar might not work, and guess what?
He's holding out.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
It's optional, but the football button bar still had to write a handwritten letter asking for permission to not be a
Yes.
part of Purple Daily here.
Right.
Yes, and you, like Zim, are pissed off at the football button bar.
Oh, man. All right, this is Purple Daily, presented by TCL. TCL, some wonderful TVs that a lot of you guys are watching us on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. So keep sending those photos. Enjoy more of what you love with TCL. Mackie, Judd, Declan, our executive producer. We got a couple things. A juicy Vikings trade rumor that popped up over the weekend, the long weekend. And also an interesting top 100 players list from Pete Prisco that we'll get into. But we just have to thank the audience. We just got done beep, boop, 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 tallying all of the May numbers. And two awesome things. Number one, you guys helped us set a new Purple Daily download record here.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Even though it was like the month after the draft. So you like us. You really like us, even though it wasn't draft lead-up season. So thank you guys for sticking with us every single day. And also Score North podcast as a whole. So Purple Daily, Mackie and Judd, Royce Unchained, The Scoop with Doogie, et cetera, et cetera. We set a new download record for our entire network in the month of May as well. So thank you guys. We appreciate you. We enjoy entertaining you on a daily basis. And boys, I think we should dive right into it. And Judd, it's going to be on you to be the reckless speculation sounder guy because my thing has frozen
wait.
up over here.
All right, hold on.
Oh, yeah, I know this is Christmas Day for you.
Yep,
You get to be in charge of the buttons here.
Oh, boy.
We'll wait for it. It's okay.
Here we go. Hold on, Judd.
We'll wait for it. No.
Reckless speculation.
Reckless speculation.
No, people hate when we do that.
Executive,
That's why we do it,
executive
though.
producer.
Okay, so over the weekend, across the internet, Courtney Cronin was tweeting about this. And then I would assume one of the more credible football insider accounts on the internet, at My Sports Update on Twitter.
Nice. Yeah.
At My Sports Update. Who do you trust more? Do you trust Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, or at My Sports Update on Twitter?
Well, if
I mean, you
it's
put them all in a hat.
My
for me.
Sports Update, it must be true.
That's right.
Like they don't recklessly speculate. They just report. They spit out the facts.
So Doogie. So just to lead this up, Doogie has reported for Score North and 5 Eyewitness News that the Vikings did kick the tires on trading up to 7 during the draft. That they really like Fields, and they were kicking the tires on the trade up to 7. Courtney Cronin has tweeted and written that in the draft room the night of the first round, that there was a lot of once Fields started to fall to like 7, 8, 9. Okay, there's conversations happening. My Sports Update takes it a step further and says the Vikings called the Panthers on draft night and offered the 14, the 90th, and the 143rd in exchange for the 8. The move up would have been either for Justin Fields or Rashawn Slater. Now they're pulling this from a Panthers YouTube video.
Yes.
On Twitter here. So actually, how long is that video? Is that too long to play on here? I think it probably is.
I think it's too long to play. Yes.
Okay, so we'll just sum it up by saying the Vikings offered a first round pick swap, the 90th and the 143rd in exchange for the 8. The move would have been either for Justin Fields or Rashawn Slater.
Mm-hmm. And well, first off, I guess in the course of the conversation that the Panthers had with the Vikings right before the pick, that the Panthers they looked at the old Jimmy Johnson trade chart and said, "You're trying to screw us. Don't lowball us. Don't call us with a lowball offer." So they were looking at the old trade chart, which I've been told by some is now extinct. But heck, good for them. I guess Matt Rule, who can't run a clock during a game to save his life, can add up points on a draft chart. My thoughts are this. I find it intriguing that the Vikings, who I think starting with Dukes' report, I think he's exactly right. They were after Fields. I think they like Slater a lot. But if Fields was out there, I think they were going to try to trade for him. And I think, in fact, that's exactly what they did. I also think that there's credibility to the reports that we've seen occasionally that the Vikings love Trey Lance. And I think they liked Lance more than Fields. So I think that on their board of the potential available QBs, probably a month before the draft, their board was Lance and then Fields. Here's the thing that started to surprise me, though. And this is the Vikings thing at quarterback that, Phil, that we've talked about before and I don't really get. So if you really liked Fields, though, like if you thought, okay, this guy can replace Kirk almost certainly in 2022, and he can step in and play, and we've scouted him, and we know him, and we like him, that offer to the Panthers isn't very good. Like you would have offered more.
Yeah.
So I guess
you weren't that serious.
So I totally buy that they liked him, and I completely buy that they probably had a plan if they could have gotten him. But in typical Viking QB fashion, it's like, well, let's put our big toe in the pool and see if it's. Oh, that's pretty chilly.
Yeah.
That's because if you had really thought that you had found your guy, then your guy would be a guy that you would have included more for. So I have mixed feelings about sort of how the Vikings approach this, because I've never really trusted completely their devotion and dedication to identifying what in their mind is clearly the right quarterback.
So I at first my thought was, would you actually let me ask you guys this. I think the conundrum for the Vikings was, all right, we know that we like Kellen Mond a lot too. Maybe we like Justin Jefferson more. Or I'm sorry, Just Jeff. We love Justin Jefferson. Yeah, maybe we like Justin Fields.
We're going to trade him to the Panthers.
Yeah. But we also really need a left tackle solution. So we could trade up for Fields, and obviously the Panthers thought it was a lowball offer. So it would have had to have been more than the 90th and the 143 and your 14, right? It would have had to have been maybe even your 66th, right, to really get enough capital sent to Carolina. Would you rather have Justin Fields and then whatever else? Like, okay, now you're not picking until the third round, maybe even mid-third round if you have to give up that 66th pick. And so now your left tackle solution is a third rounder, or you have to trade up again, but you got Justin Fields. Or would you rather have had Christian Darrisaw in the way that it played out? You could trade back, get more draft capital, still get Christian Darrisaw and Kellen Mond. It would all depend to me on how confident are you in your quarterback evaluation? And Rick Spielman can't be that confident, right? It's all very coin flippy with him. And was there enough of a gap between Justin Fields and Kellen Mond to justify shrugging your shoulders at left tackle? But hey, we got our quarterback, right? So I like the way that it played out, even if Justin Fields has a better lottery ticket over his head than Kellen Mond. I mean, you can break this all down historically. First-round quarterbacks have about a 60 to 75% chance of becoming franchise guys. It's kind of an inexact science because, obviously Christian Ponder was a first-round quarterback. Probably wasn't graded as a first-round quarterback, and so he counts in the bust category. And once you get to the third round, those guys only pan out to be multi-year starters, like franchise starters for a handful of years, about 22% of the time. So if you thought Fields was 75% to pan out, and Mond is 20 to 25%, that might be a big enough gap to say, screw it, pull the trigger, this is your dude for the next 10 years. Sorry, Kirk, you're gone after 2021, and we'll figure left tackle out later. I think the Vikings had Mond and Fields. I think they had Fields above Mond, but I think the gap was a lot closer than like 75% Fields panning out, 25% Mond panning out. I'm making these numbers up, obviously, but like, what if it was 30 to 40% Mond pans out in a couple years as a franchise guy, and Fields is 60 to 70%, and so there's a gap, but Christian Darrisaw also gets to be on your team for the next 8+ years as a franchise left tackle. It's tantalizing. I like the idea of being aggressive for a potential franchise quarterback. The risks be damned. But I like the way this played out better for the Vikings. What about you, Dex?
Yeah, I like it a lot too. And by the way, Mike Florio also pulled out the same thing that they tried to get up to get Justin Fields. So he also posted on Pro Football Talk on Sunday that it was Justin Fields who they were targeting. And I'm sure Rashawn Slater was probably obviously a candidate there. But trying to get up and trying to find your franchise quarterback, yeah, I absolutely love it. And even it would have been similar to how Kellen Mond is going to be treated in 2021. They wouldn't have thrown Justin Fields in the fire. Kirk Cousins is still the starting quarterback. But I do think the process is obviously accelerated a little bit more than it is, obviously, with Kellen Mond, who's definitely a bigger project and a third-round day 2 pick.
Because a huge part of the value of taking a quarterback in any round is that you get to leverage their rookie scale deal, and you get to start building your team. Like, you know, people who praise the Packers for sitting Jordan Love and giving him time, just like they sat Rodgers. Well, that's great, but like a huge part of the reason why you draft quarterbacks is so you can get a 5-year runway, or in the case of Kellen Mond, it'll be a 4-year contract before he's a free agent, a 4 or 5-year runway of a cheap, good quarterback, and then you spend money on the rest of your roster. So it would have been tough with Kirk on the team and Justin Fields coming in, and Fields makes a lot more as a first-round pick than Mond does as a third-round pick. There's no way you would have been able to justify sitting Fields for a full year. So that would have been a thing. And you figure it out if he's your franchise guy going forward, then you just sort of deal with the uncomfortableness. With Mond, you get a green light. Some fans are going to call for it. Florio's going to call for it at some point, and we're probably going to call for it in like week 11. But you have a green light to sit Kellen Mond for a full year behind Kirk Cousins, and not many people are going to complain.
But not 2, because now you're down to 2 years on the contract instead of the 5th-year option, which is a problem too. I just want to see the Vikings. I want to have the feeling someday, and it's just not there, that they have a clear, crystallized idea of what they want at that position. It's so important. And like, if you think Fields is worth trading up for, you should have done it. And that's the trade. Now, I like how the draft worked out. So in hindsight, I think it worked out fine. And the Mond pick might be great. No clue. This is more of a Lifetime Achievement Award to me, to Spielman, for continually really being like, I don't know, let's just go sign Kirk. Kirk, we know Kirk. Kirk will be fine. The Ponder pick was, I'll always say this, that draft was the musical Cheers quarterback draft. Hey, Locker's gone, Newton's gone, Gabbert's gone. Who's our guy? Let's take Ponder. I would like the sense of a feeling that your franchise is like, yeah, this is our guy. Like, this is our guy. And they sort of went there with Teddy, but they traded back into the first round, which was okay. But if you recall, that was more Norv. I mean, Norv's the one that identified and said, I saw him. I went back and talked to him. We put him through a private workout in Florida. He's our guy, which I loved. I love that stance. I love that he's our guy. We know enough to be confident. So this draft, I think, worked out fine, but I would just love to see the day where the Vikings take a quarterback in the draft, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Rick really knew on this one.
So the flip side of this is they made a sort of a tepid offer to maybe both Detroit and at 7 and Carolina at 8 to try and get Fields, which means, okay, they thought highly of Fields enough to explore those conversations. Maybe they were a little bit put off by some things that other teams were put off. Whatever brought Justin Fields down from being the bona fide number 2 pick, sliding down, further into that top 10. Maybe they had their own evaluation and had some things that they didn't like, or maybe they just got nervous that other teams were passing on him. But obviously they didn't make a full-on, we're serious about this offer. So my question to you guys is, do you think the Vikings are going to regret in like 5 years not being more aggressive and upping that offer to get Justin Fields?
I would say no, because, you don't, they clearly didn't know, right? I would say no, except there's one curveball in what you just said that now becomes extremely important. And if the answer is yes, it's a problem. The Chicago Bears. So, like, if Fields had been taken by
it's a double
an AFC,
problem for you.
Exactly. So if Fields had been taken by an AFC team, for instance, you'd be like, okay, I mean, unless you missed on Mahomes, it should be just fine. But yes, now you're going to have to play him twice a year, and God forbid the Chicago Bears have finally solved a quarterback problem that's been a problem since Sid Luckman. So unfortunately for the Vikings, if they were right and this was the guy and this was their guy, and now he's playing them twice a year in the division, that's problematic for sure.
Yeah, it's tough because if it was a different franchise drafting Fields, like if it was the Packers, for some reason Jordan Love doesn't worry me because he wasn't touted as being like a top 5 pick, right? It felt like a reach, and maybe he'll wind up being a good quarterback. But Aaron Rodgers was being talked about 15 years ago as the number 1 pick, and then he falls all the way to 25, and it's like, oh my God, of course they just like get a guy that was going to maybe be the number 1 pick just falls in their laps. Justin Fields was maybe going to be the number 2 overall pick. And so if it was the Packers taking him, I'd be like, oh, well, of course they luck boxed their way into another 15-year Hall of Fame quarterback. But because it's the Bears, I lean toward either they whiffed because they always do, or they'll screw it up because they always do.
Sure.
Right? Like they never maximize, whether it's a bad evaluation or bad development, they never maximize a quarterback. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little bit less worried because it's the Bears. But if your gut instinct was, oh, we should maybe trade up for this, why didn't you follow it?
And that's the problem.
Why didn't you follow it?
So like and my question when it comes to QBs and the Vikings is, do you really believe or not? Like Kirk does seem to be, and this is not a Kirk bash, which I always have to preface everything I say now with, this is not a Kirk bash. Kirk does seem to be the safe choice, right? Like he was.
That's a Kirk bash.
Expensive choice, but my point is the Vikings signed him because they basically acknowledged we really can't find a guy. Like lots of teams find their guy, right? But we're going to go in Rick's mind, I think, the safest route possible because Kirk's not going to be a disaster. Like he's not a bust for sure. So that's sort of the story of the Vikings in the Spielman era of. Like, do you identify these QBs, and are you sure about them? Are you, like, tepid on them, which this certainly seemed to be? Can I throw in a little bit more of this?
Reckless speculation.
Please do.
Okay, so the Vikings had another chance to get Fields before the Bears came up to 11 and took him. And I think this is pretty solid. They had a deal very similar to what they offered the Panthers, but this actually probably works because of the draft positioning, you guys, with Denver at 9. So George Payton,
are you reporting
old
this?
friend? I'm saying I've heard rumblings about this, okay? And so I am reporting in a
reckless speculation
because I lead the lifestyle. Like, first of all, you have to understand I am fully engaged in the lifestyle. Yeah. Okay. Like slippers, corduroy pants.
Oh,
wait,
cards.
What? I didn't know that reckless speculation lifestyle required corduroy pants. Which
pants
I used to wear every day of 7th grade.
Me too. Me too. So did I. But the deal with the Broncos was contingent on this. J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain couldn't be taken yet because if the Broncos were going to go backwards, they were bound and determined to get one of those two. Well, when the Carolina trade with the Vikings didn't work out, J.C. Horn went to the Panthers. And so now the Broncos are like, well, we're out then because we can't afford to move backwards and miss out on Surtain. So the point being, though, because if you had traded from 14 to 9, I think the trade we talked about with the Panthers probably works or comes closer to working because the pick is 2 picks or a pick after the Panthers. My point being is I think the Vikings aggressively did look at trying to go up and get Fields. And that just further interests me about what the feeling was there. And Phil, to your last point, why you wouldn't have just said, if this is our guy, it's our guy.
Okay, here's the next question off of all of this. What if they had so we've got indications and reports and steam and speculation, some of it very ironclad, some of it a little bit less so, but that they tried to get to 7, 8, and 9, maybe even somewhere else in there, right? And my question to you guys is, what if they had successfully done it and drafted Justin Fields? would Kirk have gone on to, because I think he went on Twitter and, welcome to the team, Kellen Mond, right? Hey, let me reach out to him and send him a text message. What would the discussions have been like over the last month among fans, media, internally with Kirk? A third-round guy is one thing. Hey, Kirk, listen, we need some youth at the position. You're obviously still our guy, but this is between you and me, Kirk. Sean Mannion. I mean, come on. Yeah, he's Sean Mannion.
But I liked him.
We just want.
He's my best friend.
In case you take a terrible hit because, listen, the offensive line hasn't been great. We just need someone back there who can run around a little bit more. Okay. I mean, you can't sell it that way if it's Justin Fields. If they draft a first-round quarterback and trade up for him, it's a Kansas City Chiefs Alex Smith situation, right? There's no massaging it, finessing it. We drafted your replacement to start as soon as possible.
Yes.
Maybe not the first half of 2021, but the clock is now ticking. The clock is ticking with Kellen Mond as well, mostly because of Kirk's contract. But you can at least finesse it the other way behind the scenes. So what would the last month have been like if they pulled off one of these moves up to 7, 8, or 9?
For us, glorious.
Well, of course. Well, because
for them,
come on.
I just think that this shows that there is an even stronger desire to have Kirk's replacement than the Mond pick showed. Like the Mond pick is clearly, and I like it, but the Mond pick is clearly, third-round pick. Okay, he'll come in, he'll learn, develop, and then if Kirk can't come back because they're right now, despite the fact that we all think Kirk might be traded next summer, the reality is you can easily sell, hey, Kellen Mond's going to sit for 2 years, you guys. He's our backup. He's going to be great backup. And then someday he might ascend to the starting role. But Justin Fields, it's on. And that to me shows, and I wonder if they were willing to engage in that. Yes. Well, but that's my question. Is the lukewarm tepidness of the Fields offer to the Panthers, is that an indication that they were willing to engage in what drafting Fields would have meant, but also were so frightened by the fact that if you go there, all hell potentially breaks loose?
Yeah.
Like, I would just like to know, ordinarily, if you really like a QB, and at some point in time, too, your intelligence had to say, the Chicago Bears are making calls, right? Like, you would have that intelligence coming into your room during the draft. Hey, I talked to the Bears about this too.
Yeah.
So the Vikings had to know, or had to be tipped at some point, that the Bears were making calls, actively trying to move up to get Justin Fields. So all of that being said, I wonder if the Vikings were thinking what we're saying, which is, okay, Justin Fields would be great. We do like him a lot. But if we make a trade and draft him, you are going to have to be in the mix of immediately, well, when's Fields going to start? If Kirk struggles, why isn't Fields playing? Like that
Dude, it is juicy, man.
That could have played.
Juicy.
I mean, you can't dismiss that.
It's like in a vacuum, they knew, man, this guy could be a 10+ year franchise quarterback. Let's make an offer. Well, wait, what should the offer be? Well, it's going to be kind of a pain in the ass to have that discussion with Kirk and his agent. And then the fans are going to be all split, and ownership kind of wants us to keep Kirk happy for one more year. All right, let's float him a 4th and maybe a late 3rd and see what happens.
So do you think if Kirk had been going in to the last year of his contract in 2022, that they up that offer to the Panthers and make that trade? So
Wait,
like if this was this launch, so I'm saying Kirk has 2 years left right now, and he can be traded, but
you're saying if his deal was up after this year?
Yes, I'm saying if Kirk had 1 year instead of 2 left on his contract and the need to replace him is more immediate, and you could probably justify a high quarterback draft pick, do you think that trade gets done?
I think they feel more urgency, but they should feel the urgency either way because there's no way they're going to play him on a $45 million cap number for 2022. So you either have to trade him. I guess you could play him on that number, but you're not going to win games. Like, you're going to have to. You can't extend Danielle Hunter. And you can't keep Thielen around and Harrison Smith around. Like, you can't keep all these guys under the same roof when he's making 40. The cap's like 180, and it'll go up to maybe 190 or 200. So you either have to trade him or extend him after this season. There's really no other option.
Yeah.
And I don't see them extending him, especially now that they've got Kellen Mond in the door. So they were all along planning on 2021, I think. I mean, mark this down. I know sometimes I feel like people think we're like way out in front and you guys are way early on this. This is going to be Kirk Cousins' last year as the Vikings quarterback. Unless they extend him into age 35, 36, and I just don't see that happening. So they knew before the draft that this was lingering the next 2 years, his contract. And they've I think been setting up for 2021 to be the last year of his deal. And I'm sure they had discussions with him in the offseason that said, we don't need this to be the last year of your deal. You could bring that cap number down from third and second highest in the league down to ninth. Pat Mahomes brought it down to $7.5 million so they could sign some offensive linemen, right? They can run to the Super Bowl.
Kirk said, "No, I'm good."
And when he said, "No, I'm good," the Vikings said, "All right, we're good too.
Right.
We're gonna find a quarterback either in the first or the third round."
So off that point, then, if you thought that Fields was the guy, why wouldn't you have done it then? Because Kirk did sort of tell you to screw off. I mean, you went to Kirk and said, "Be a team guy," and Kirk had every right to say, "Bleep that, I'm not going to," and he did. But why would? So if you're convinced that Justin Fields is worth trading up for to get, like, why wouldn't you have gone that next step? Because it's not like you had to throw in 3 first-round draft picks.
It is weird that they made offers that were sort of lowball offers. It is weird that that they'd be willing, if a team said yes, they'd be willing to create the mess. So it is weird that they lowball. Why not just make it happen, right? But the answer to your question is they have such a big need at the the second most important offensive position, which is left tackle. They wanted to come away with a left tackle and a quarterback option within their first 2 or 3 picks, and they did with Christian Darrisaw and with Kellen Mond. So it goes back to the beginning of this discussion. Yeah. Justin Fields and shrug emoji at left tackle, or Christian Darrisaw and Kellen Mond. Now, we could replay this in 5 years, and if you swapped out these names, it could literally be us talking about like Pat Mahomes and shrug emoji,
right?
Or garbage bust quarterback that was drafted in the 3rd round and a left tackle that's average, right?
And where I would say that this opens itself up to potential criticism and second guessing is here. No matter what you did for 2021, there is no more important position in sports than quarterback. So, like, if you thought this was the guy and you're like, but for the short term, let's not do that, that's a mistake.
Yeah.
So,
we'll see.
Like, I like their draft. I think it's fine. This report and not report, the fact that this leaked out, like this was on the Panthers account. So this is not a completely bit of, hold on a second here. I got it right here. I got the sounder.
Reckless speculation.
Really does intrigue me.
Yeah. Well, if the Vikings are looking for insurance at that QB position, Kellen Mond is great. And so they've got their insurance there. If you're looking for insurance as a business owner, Federated is here standing behind you and other business owners around the state of Minnesota for over 100 years. They're one of us. They're based in Minnesota. They're Minnesota sports fans. They've been supporting us on Purple Daily and Mackey and Judd for a number of years. We appreciate that. You can find out more about all the different tools and resources Federated provides and all the industries they protect at federatedinsurance.com. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. I know we promised Pete Prisco's top 100 players. We're out of time for this episode, so we will do that tomorrow. We can do write that down predictions. And I think the biggest thing about this top 100 list is who the number one Viking is, and do you agree or not? And should there be more Vikings in the top 100? The Vikings roster is pretty ridiculous in some certain spots, but we'll get to that tomorrow and predictions. Good fodder there. Good fodder. Thanks, Panthers, for putting that information out there.
I'm sure the Vikings really appreciated it too.
All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you again for helping us set a new Purple Daily download and play record. We appreciate you guys, and we'll keep bringing the daily Vikings entertainment Monday through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. See you guys.